History of Famagusta. At the beginning of the 13th century, Famagusta was an insignificant settlement. In 1291, all the coastal Levantine countries were managed by the Mamluk Sultan. This caused the shift of the commercial relations to Cyprus, and Famagusta became an important stop in the entire Levant trade center. So many people immigrated to Cyprus. Templar and Hospitallers knights moved to Cyprus, and Cyprus became a shelter for religious military communities in 1291. Most of them were Benedictines, Cistercian, Augustinian, Premonstrations, Franciscan, Dominican, and Carmelite communities. The intensive migration of the Syrian Christians and Western merchants to Famagusta as the new trading port of the Eastern Mediterranean has led to the rapidly growing population of the city and accordingly the most populous period of its life. During the Ottoman period in Famagusta from the 16th century, the city faced an inevitable decline and neglect, and natural phenomena such as earthquakes, plague, and flooding ruined the city, and historical sites were destroyed by the time the British arrived in 1878. The population of Famagusta increased significantly after World War II, and the first rebirth of the city happened. Famagusta, with a history of 1,500 years, was an important trade center of Cyprus between the 13th and 15th centuries. Among the two main cities in Cyprus, Famagusta was the most important in 1508 and the only safe harbor of Cyprus in the 13th century for trade. In 1878, Famagusta, as a military port and a coastal trade center, was a safe harbor. As an international trade center, the culture, art, and architecture of Famagusta were affected by the diversity of tradesmen traveling to this city. Between 1347 and 1348, the Black Death or plague epidemic, and during the Ottoman period, grasshopper invasions, earthquakes, and malaria epidemics caused the loss of population in Famagusta. From 1881 to 1960, the population of Famagusta increased due to the immigrants from Syria, Anatolia, the Aegean Islands, and the Greek coast, which caused the diversity of cultural and architectural heritage. Famagusta was a little known settlement at the beginning of the 13th century, and it gained great importance as a commercial bridge between the West and the East after the massive immigration from Acre after it was passed from Crusaders to Arabs in 1291. Famagusta was the only real harbor in Cyprus during the 14th century, and its prosperity has increased due to its harbor activities. Famagusta became an important trade center between the 13th and 15th century and gained a cosmopolitan character. It had been governed by different regions and hosted different urban and architectural approaches. The inhabitants of the city have been Greeks, Jews, Italians, Provençals, Armenians, Syrians, and Genovese merchants, a very mixed composition of the Western and the Eastern Mediterranean communities between 300 and 1370. As an international trade center for 300 years, the culture, art, and architecture of Famagusta were influenced by the diversity of inhabitants who were settled in this city. There have been built a vast number of churches in the 14th century, mostly ruined due to the Ottoman bombardment during 1570, severe earthquakes, reuse of their building materials, abandonment, and neglect for a long time. In 1570-1571, Famagusta was the last stronghold in Cyprus that held out against the Turks, and it resisted a siege of 13 months and a bombardment. Under Ottoman rule, Christians were not permitted to live in Famagusta and they were only allowed to enter it on foot, and even so, it was difficult to get permission. The British rule cancelled this prohibition. When the Ottomans conquered Cyprus in 1570-71, some of the Latin churches were destroyed or given to the Greeks, whereas others were converted into mosques. One of the most important political decisions during the Ottoman period, which changed the fate of Famagusta, was the decision to take the Christians living in the city out of Famagusta. Took place sometimes after the conquest in 1573-1574. The reason is unknown, but it must have been decided due to the human forces and economic damage during the hard times of the Ottoman siege, trying to protect the walled city of Famagusta from the risk of losing it again. Taking the Christians out of the walled city of Famagusta caused serious problems in the economy of the city. Furthermore, the families who were brought there from other different places faced health problems and worse economic issues, which led to the inability to tolerate living there for a long time. This caused the serious problem of low population in the walled city of Famagusta during the Ottoman period. Famagusta was practically deserted in the 17th century. During the Ottoman period in Famagusta, the city faced an inevitable decline and neglect, and natural phenomena such as earthquakes, plague, and flooding ruined the city, and historical sites were destroyed by the time the British arrived in 1878. The British period was the start of economic and physical progress in the walled city of Famagusta, which caused an increase in population. The population of Famagusta increased significantly after World War II, and the first rebirth of the city happened. The British period in Cyprus was extremely important for the medieval and Renaissance monuments of the island. Contrary to the Ottoman period that preceded it, there now arose an increasing interest in the ancient monuments of Cyprus, leading scholars and travelers to produce many books and articles. The British government itself also demonstrated a willingness to assist with the maintenance and restoration of monuments, not least in the historic city of Famagusta. The British rule cancelled the prohibition of Christians entering and living in the walled city of Famagusta. In 1960, the Republic of Cyprus was established, and the Turkish municipality got the responsibility of organizing the walled city of Famagusta. In 1963, the official and social problems of Famagusta started with the problems between the Turkish and Greek people. In 1964, the Greek people were sent out of the walled city of Famagusta again, and only Turkish people lived there. Just before 1974, entry to the walled city was controlled by the police checking the passports due to the increasing security problems. And in 1974, Famagusta was besieged for the second time after 1571. The only difference is at this time, Turkish people defended the city from inside the walled city for 1 month. In 1974, during the Turkish federal government of Cyprus, it was decided to close the Maraş region, which was an important part of the city. Although Famagusta was one of the richest districts for holiday destinations during the 1970s, due to the war in 1974, half of it was closed to residents and the other half became a bordered city. The coastal area of Varusha or Kapalimaraş in Turkish has been closed to civilians since then. Katovarusha or Aşağımaraş in Turkish is partly open to civilians and houses refugees and immigrants. Between the years 1974 and 1983, the economic condition of the city decreased just like the harbor activities. In 1979, Eastern Mediterranean University was founded in Famagusta, which affected the economic conditions of the city. In 1983, the Turkish Republic of North Cyprus was established and Eastern Mediterranean University has become the most important factor in the social, cultural, and economic activities of the city. The walled city of Famagusta, once known as the richest city in the world, is now threatened by earthquakes, abandonment, and neglect. Due to the severe state of deterioration, it was recently listed on the 2008 World Monuments Watch List of 100 most endangered sites by the World Monuments Fund. Cyprus was struck by strong earthquakes during its history, and 16 severe earthquakes have been recorded between the years 26 BC and 1900 AD, while two of them ruined the whole city of Famagusta and Salamis in 76 AD and 332 AD. More than 400 recorded earthquakes happened in Cyprus from 1896 to 2004. On the 18th of February 1924, an earthquake caused small damage in Famagusta, while the earthquake on the 20th of January 1941 caused severe destruction in the city.